Hey guys, you're watching PhoneArena's in-depth video review of the Sony Ericsson Xperia X10, which is available right now through AT&T. It sports a contract price of $149.99 and actually has a lot in common with the European version, which was launched a few months back. It's finally here in the United States, so it's getting its toes wet. It sports a 4-inch TFT display and also a 1 GHz Snapdragon processor under the hood, and Sony Ericsson's unique user interface with Android. So we'll check it out and see what it has to offer versus the original one that we saw a while back. Now, the design of the X10 hasn't changed that much, aside from the color scheme that we have here. It's constructed out of this piano black glossy plastic all around the handset, which does make for a rather lightweight handset. You really don't notice it that much in the hand. On top of that, even though it's plastic, it does exude a high finish to it. We definitely like the straight, hard lines it offers, and also the angle cutouts. It has a very unique looking look to it, and overall we definitely feel that it's still considered a high-end device, even though its choice of plastic materials. It's complemented nice with the soft touch rear cover, and of course the chrome accents on the sides. It's not that heavy at all, and it's fairly easy to hold, especially with a 4-inch display. It doesn't seem as bulky or overly large as something like the HTC Evo 4G or even the Motorola Droid X. Similar to other recent handsets, the X10 actually hits that sweet spot by having a 4-inch touchscreen capacitive display. It has a resolution of 480 by 854 pixels, so it makes even the smallest of text become quite legible, very clear and also detailed, so we had no problems viewing what's on screen. As far as colors though, it only has support for 65,000 colors, and from what you could tell with the wallpaper options that they have preloaded, it doesn't do that great of a job displaying a wide range of colors, and as you could tell, some of these wallpaper options here are just single toned, but still it's very easy to see in the in outdoor conditions, especially in direct sunlight. Right below the touchscreen you have the physical buttons, which we actually prefer. They're chrome accented, and they're the menu, home, and also back buttons. They're very responsive as well. On the left hand side you just have this notch here for the speakerphone. On the right side you have a nice size shutter key and also the volume rocker, and on top you have the micro USB port behind the flap, the 3.5mm headset jack, the dedicated power button. On the bottom here you have a spot for a lanyard, and on the back you're going to be greeted to its 8.1 megapixel autofocus camera with LED flash, and when you remove the back cover they'll be presenting access to the battery, SIM card slot, and micro SD card slot. The experience on the X10 is pretty much similar to what we witnessed with the European version a few months back. It's powered by a 1 GHz Snapdragon processor. As you can tell just by moving about the 3 home screens here, it's very responsive and very quick, so we didn't have any issues as far as its performance goes. Unfortunately though, it comes with Android 1.6, so that's kind of disheartening just because when most handsets are coming out with Android 2.1 and above, so it doesn't make any sense why Sony Ericsson didn't bother to actually upgrade it between the time it was launched in Europe and now. But thankfully you have Sony Ericsson's unique looking interface, and for example if you launch Timescape here, it's a centralized hub where it'll display all your different social networking feeds, for example your Facebook stuff, even your Twitter account here. And the neat thing about it is that it has a nice presentation look to it, these 3D effects, and just showcases the power of the Snapdragon processor on the handset. Everything just runs so smoothly. So if you want to read a tweet from someone, you could definitely do that. In addition, it also has MediaScape, which is actually the centralized hub for all your music, pictures, and videos. So for example, I'll show you here the interface, and let's say for example we want to play just a song here. So it'll play the song, and the neat thing about it, if you press the infinity icon here, it's going to bring you to a different panel where you can actually download or get more content from this artist. It's going to search YouTube right now for any associated videos with it. It's pretty neat, it's an acquired taste, and definitely different from what's available right now here stateside. Now, since it packs a 4-inch display, you'd think that it would be a decent device as far as typing up messages. It only comes with the stock Android keyboard. The thing that we noticed though with the stock Android keyboard, it wasn't as responsive in casually typing. We just found ourselves making a lot of mistakes using the portrait style one, just because maybe it's a little bit cramped. But thankfully though, unlike the European version, this one here has the landscape option now available to you, because that was missing on the original one, and it does make for a better experience as far as typing goes. Not all Android handsets offer the same web browsing experience. With the X10 here, I managed to load up our page fairly quickly, and it rendered it properly too, and as you can tell, it has some pretty good scrolling here. Unfortunately though, it lacks multi-touch support, so you can't do pinch gestures to zoom in and zoom out. You simply have to just press the buttons. And to tell you the truth, it just feels like a step back, especially when we have all this innovation in web browsing with Android. The music player on the X10 is pretty much your basic one, just because it presents stuff like the album cover here, some of the track information, also on-screen controls. There aren't any visualizations or even equalizer settings, but thankfully though, the tunes from the speaker were pretty normal sounding and didn't muffle or have any distortions with it. We got a video trailer here encoded in MPEG-4 1280 by 720 resolution. As you can tell, it's running fairly smoothly. It didn't have any instance of any stuttery movements or even slowdown, and it just shows off the power of the processor here. And of course, it's fitting just because it has a 4-inch display, which makes it very conducive to watching videos. If you love taking videos, you're going to be happy with the wide range of features found on the X10, specifically things like face detection and even image stabilization. Overall though, we were really satisfied with the 8.1 megapixel autofocus camera on the device. For outdoor shots, it produced a lot of detail in our shots, and colors were pretty natural looking. Indoors though, it did a good job still. It had a fair amount of detail, and colors were still well represented. Unfortunately though, if you're going to use the flash, it just failed to illuminate the shots, and it just didn't offer enough lighting to produce good shots with it. And when so many handsets offer 720p video recordings, kind of a little bit sad to not find it here on the X10. Thankfully though, it has a maximum shooting resolution of 800 by 480, so there's still a fair amount of detail, and it does a good job when capturing at a rate of 28 frames per second. And it comes in handy with the image stabilization, so it doesn't look as jerky. The earpiece produced some mute-sounding voices on our end, and on top of that, when we had it set to its loudest volume, it still made it difficult to hear our callers just because there's some static noise in the background that could be heard. Thankfully though, on our caller's end, they said that our voice was clear and distinct and there was no evidence of any distortion. When we switched to using the speakerphone though, it did produce some decent tones, but unfortunately there was some echoing effect to it. As far as signal strength, we didn't have any issues with the X10 just because it managed to retain a good healthy amount of bars at all given times. As far as battery life, we managed to get a good 1-day use out of the handset on normal usage, and we had the phone set to automatically set the brightness level. So if you're a heavy user, you'll probably want to charge it as often as you can. So if the X10 was released 6 months ago here through AT&T, it definitely would have been a compelling handset just because we rarely haven't seen any devices like this. But after seeing the HTC Evo 4G, the Motorola Droid X, and other high-end devices this past summer, the X10 feels a little bit flat and a little bit late to the game, especially when it packs Android 1.6. It just doesn't make for a compelling reason to go with this handset, especially when you have things like the Samsung Captivate on AT&T, which offers a superior performance than this one here. When it's priced at $149.99, it makes also for a difficult decision to side with the X10, just because you could either move up to the Samsung Captivate for a little bit more, or even get away with something by using something like the HTC Aria on AT&T's lineup. So if you'd like to learn more about this handset, or for all the latest cell phone reviews, new specs, and information, you can check us out at PhoneArena.com.